What is up, guys? You got NotTheWorst here, bringing you another Black Desert online video, and today we're doing a silver breakdown, while taking a look at one of the new grind zones that released with the Ulukita region, or at least this half of it, as of the time of recording, and that is the Tungrad ruins, the higher grade of the two new zones that we saw. This one is rated at 320 AP and 410 DP, and as you'll see when we get in this video, it's a little more nuanced than just that. Before I go any further, I do want to give a little bit of a caveat, because I'm sure you saw the amounts listed in the title. A couple things to keep in mind with this grind that was done, since I did it right when the grind zone was released. On the NA servers, we had a drop rate event on it, and there are some very high pricey rare items that drop, or at a glance they seem rare. So keep that in mind when you're talking about money. Obviously, your current server prices of these items is going to have a heavy weight on that. So if your prices are different on your server, or you're looking at this video 6 months from the time it's posted, maybe the prices are the same, maybe they're not. Just you have to check that. And lastly, I did this on one of the most broken PvE classes in the game, Succession Wusa. The difference between trying to do it on my main Dark Knight, which it's definitely doable, but doing that versus a class like Wusa that's just absolutely absurd at pushing high-end grind zones like this, very high-end grind zones, it's night and day. I couldn't approach anywhere near the numbers that you're going to see in the spreadsheet on Dark Knight. I'm lucky if I could do half of it, to be quite honest with you. So keep all of those things in mind while you're going through this video, and if you just want to see the numbers, then take those caveats with you and then jump to the timestamp for the spreadsheet so that you can see that. For those of you that want the rest of it, let's go ahead and get into it. First, let's go ahead and start talking about the requirements for this spot and potential builds for how you want to go about getting to those requirements. The first thing is that it takes very, very high accuracy. It's not quite as up there as, say, like Crypt the Resting Thoughts would be for accuracy requirement. It's a bit lower than that. But it does take a lot of accuracy. So I was running 910 on Succession Wusa, and as long as the mobs also had my, obviously, accuracy a skill add-on, and then as long as the mobs also had the evasion debuff on them, then I didn't miss. If I missed with the skill on one of the mobs or something, there was potential I could miss with that amount, and that's at 910. Obviously, different classes have different accuracy passives that are going to be an impact for you. And then obviously different classes have different skill modifiers, and then in some cases they even have a skill that'll self-buff their accuracy as well. So I'm not saying you need 910 accuracy by any means. What I'm saying is you want to be around 910 accuracy if you're playing Succession Wusa specifically, but pay attention to your hit rates and kind of figure out where you're at and where the sweet spot is. The other thing to balance, and what makes this spot kind of difficult, if you just try to say, oh, I have 310 AP and 420 DP, or 320 AP, 410 DP, whatever, and just run in there, it doesn't work like that. The other thing you need to keep in mind is what seems to be, and this isn't confirmed but theorized, there's a pretty heavy penalty for having something less than 950 total AP, and you can kind of see that if you actually go in there with a lot less AP. Obviously, accuracy is going to be king first, but getting to 950 AP while maintaining that accuracy is really the goal, to be able to clear at a decent rate here. Going under that, it's absolutely not worth your time, and you're just not going to damage the mobs that you need to in the amount of time that you do. Aside from that, it also currently appears that there's a 1000 AP cap on it. I'm sure people are testing this to prove that, but from what I could see, it did look to be the case. And since there's a 1000 AP cap, that means to grind here, you want to be hitting the full accuracy requirement if you can, and then having somewhere between 950 to 1000 total AP. And then from there, the mobs are actually demi-human, so you could potentially run some extra demi-human lightstone sets, the wild, with extra 30 there if you're going past the 1000 AP cap. I wasn't, and couldn't, while still maintaining the accuracy rate that I wanted to maintain, as you can see in the stats there, but was fairly close. If we take the succession amount at 702 and then extra AP against monsters at 289, I was pretty close to it, but not enough to make any sense there. Running a 991, because I can math, 991, so a little bit short there. Just doesn't make sense to swap over to the demi-human damage, but I was pretty close. Maybe if I ever stop failing Debo next. So with that covered, let's talk about the drops that are here and why you'd want to be here, other than just kind of looking for money and you've got the gear to swing it. The mobs here hurt, so we'd expect the gear to be insanely good. It's not insanely good compared to some of the other places we have to grind, but if you're looking for the new upgraded compass, you're going to have to grind here. That requires 3 pieces, and 2 of them are available to drop at this location. So if you are hunting that item, you do need to grind here at some point, at least in its current iteration. It does drop Spectre's Energy, which is a kind of nice little 30 mil boost here and there. You could try and make a determination that it's technically worth more because you got to turn it into other stuff, but we're going to value it just at the 30 mil trash loot for what it is. Does drop a healthy amount of BMCs. There are, Blackstones. There are other spots that drop more. It does drop a healthy amount of BMCs as well. And then we have this this red little item here next to the BMC icon. This is the new Quadir. I'm probably pronouncing that incorrectly. Item. This upgrades your Crystal of Elkar to have 20 accuracy on it instead of 10 and maintains the 10% ignore all resist. So this item is insanely good. Obviously, it's a strictly better than Elkar, and it makes Elkar strictly better than Jin Vipers. If you're talking a 1-to-1 comparison, obviously you could, if you needed the accuracy, you could now run 2 Jin Vipers and 2 of the upgraded Elkars to pick up 80 total extra accuracy, which is pretty wild. So that item is why most people are grinding here, at least to get their couple. As you'll see in the spreadsheets, they don't drop super commonly at all. Then we also have the essences that drop. 4 of these combine into the Origin of Hunger, which they give us a little hashtag for. And the essences are currently worth 750 mil. The Origin of Hunger 3 bill, 4 times 750 is 3 bills, so that makes sense. Those increase your fail stacks when used, similar to the Dark Hunger like event type items we've had in the past, except you can grind these now. There's a giant magic stone does drop as well. I, however, didn't see one, which you'll see. It's imperfect light stones of fire. Ancient Spirit Dust, it drops a good amount of that as well. Trash loot is 35k and some change, and then some Trace of Memory rounding out what our loot tables are there. So if you're trying to get some essences or hungers or compass parts, or you just want to get your new Elkars or what have you, maybe you'll find yourself at this spot if you can get the gear to make it make sense for you. So let's just take a look at how the mechanics work, and then you'll see the rotation that I was running. These mobs are really spread out, so there's a lot to choose from, but let's go ahead and get into that. Okay, so this place has a lot of options to choose from because there's a lot of areas with the mobs in it, and it's also not heavily grinded at this time because it's kind of difficult to at least get the hang of it at first, so not a lot of people are jumping into it. As far as the actual mechanics for it is, you can see each pack I'm gunning for the Visionary out of the pack. You want to kill this guy first because a couple things happen. First of all, when you get to him about 80-ish, 85% HP or so, he'll then become CCable by literally everything. You hit him with any skill that CCs, and he gets bound right away, and he'll stay that way each time you hit him in that amount of time. So he just takes a boatload of damage once that happens. When you kill him, you'll see that you stun the mobs, and not only do you stun them, it's really like a paralyze. They stay that way pretty much the entire time while you just go ahead and kill them. If they are like a little bit far off, they might not trigger that, particularly the Executioners. If they're off the far end, when they run towards you, they won't have that stun effect, whereas the Ascetics, if they're a little off to the side when you kill the Visionary for whatever reason, they'll actually sometimes still do their little bow down thing and just not attack or what have you. So yeah, as far as mechanics go, that's actually it. You kill the Visionary of each pack, it stuns them, and then just get back attacks, kill the pack, move on to the next one, rinse and repeat. It's fairly straightforward. The issue becomes if you do not immediately target the Visionary, or he does teleport if you don't CC him pretty quickly and maybe you don't see where he's at. He does some pretty nice damage, as does every single mob in the place. So it can be pretty tricky staying alive at that point because of the amount of damage that comes out, and you're already probably built pretty offensively as far as crystals go. Because you need to hit that very high AP cap for it. So yeah, you're likely not running Hooms in that instance to give you some extra boost defensively. It can get a little tough. So you want to do like we're doing on Sakwusa, which just deletes it and then stuns the guys and then finishes those off, moves on. It's very, very simple on Wusa. As I mentioned, I did do this on DK, and although it's totally doable on DK, the amount of effort involved, it's fairly brain dead on Sakwusa with the gear to match it, and it's actually a lot of work on DK, both in Awakening and Succession. So yeah, there's other classes I'm sure that are in that same boat, but just keep that in mind. This is definitely a place that has an instance where it shows you such a very large disparity in the ability to grind on some classes versus other ones. The last kind of mechanic, if you will, that happens here, there's a bird that can spawn, Petruak. And he just randomly shows up from time to time based on your drop amount. He'll randomly show up and he just spawns extra mobs that die very, very easily. You usually have the buff left over from the last visionary because it will stay until you aggro a new visionary or the time on it runs out. So they'll die really quickly when you still have that buff, and it spawns a few waves of them. Nothing special happens after that, or at least not that I am aware of. In the 10 hours that I did, I killed a ton of those guys, and then nothing else happened. It kind of felt like there should be an opportunity to actually kill the bird. It may be there like an ultra rare spawn, the bird attacks you or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I know that there is knowledge on the bird, so there's got to be something else to it, but maybe it comes from a quest line that's not currently available. Not 100% sure. So with that covered, let's go ahead and get into the spreadsheets and look at the money breakdown. All right, so right off the bat, we can talk about the average here. It was a little shy of 1.5 billion. Let's kind of break that down and talk about how we got there across 10 hours. So first and foremost, the essence drop. As you see, I actually averaged exactly 1 every single hour, and that was even in an assortment of dropping 1 the first 8 hours, then none in the 9th. So it looked like it'd taper off, and I actually dropped 2 almost back to back in the 10th and final hour there. So yeah, this generates a lot of money. These sell for 750 mil each. You can combine them into a hunger, which then sells for 3 billion. It's the same either way that you want to do that, at least with current prices. I never dropped one of these. They are in the loot table, but I didn't see one myself. I did get 3 Spectre Energy throughout here. I've seen some other people's numbers. It looks like I was actually on the lower end for Spectre's Energy. And again, I priced these just at 300 mil. The Quadier crystals, which is kind of the reason to grind here, I didn't see any. And then finally in my 9th and 10th hour, got 1 of each in there so that I had my 2 for my upgraded L-cars at least. I priced these at 800 mil. This could be a little bit varying depending on current price of the other items to actually turn it into the upgraded L-car. You can't directly sell this, so you would need 2 other crystal L-cars and then 50 magical shards and 100 light stones to be able to convert it, and it then sells for 1 billion silver. So I took 200 million out of that price to factor in kind of the conversion. Your markets may vary. I think at the time of recording, I have so many L cars from Gyfin, so it was whatever, but I think at the time of recording they were around 70 mil each on NA, so I figured 200 mil to cover the cost of 2 of those L cars. Light stones and magical shards should do it, especially because the place will generate the magical shards for you. Those we have at 3.5 mil each. Again, that's current NA prices with it. It gives you quite a few, around 30 average. Of course, the first hour was a bit lighter because I was kind of figuring out what I'm doing, especially on Wusa that I don't typically play. Blackstone's in it. We dropped around 200 per hour. Again, it's other than the first couple hours, then it scales up and kind of evened out from there. My average trash was about 10K, a little under that. Again, talking about those first 2 hours, kind of struggling to figure out what the best route to get around, and once I got the hang of it, it was fairly consistent at 10, right about on the money. 10, sometimes a little under, sometimes a little over, and I think in one case pretty much, or 2 cases pretty much right on the money. So we floated right around that 10K trash per hour. Again, I could not touch those numbers on Dark Knight. I tried. I think the best I ever did was like 6 something. With the exact same gear setup and actually slightly more offensive. I could actually hit the 1000 AP cap and run the wild lightstone along with DK while still having the accuracy, since it was slightly better than Wusa's, but I just couldn't do it because Wusa's broken. So there's that. Average about 80 dust per hour, a little higher than that, and then the trace of memory 18.6. So this trash loot, just to give you an idea, 10K trash loot's at 350 million silver, so we floated right around 350 mil of those numbers, and then obviously these guys coming in at 750 mil a piece just absolutely boosted the money to absurd amounts, making almost 3 billion silver in the 1 hour that I got 2 of them to drop. So obviously that is a very good thing to have happen if you're looking for money, and that ends up giving us our average just about 1.5 billion silver. Now, I don't expect it to stay like this over time. Again, the drop rate bonus that's currently on the servers exists, so maybe we'll revisit this once that's not on there, because I don't expect this to maintain at a 1 per hour. And then also the prices of these things could fluctuate, I think, as these enter the market more and more, or as people get more comfortable with actually grinding the spot and don't feel like they're risking crystals anymore. These will have a little bit of an influx and likely going to decrease on the market and probably sit. As far as what they settle at, only time will tell. But for now, this place is very good money. Now, it is worth saying, if you have the gear to grind here, you also easily have the gear to grind at like Dekia Thornwood, for instance, which generates the same actually probably slightly better money and much lower risk, in my opinion, to like just accidentally lose your crystals or something like that. But if you want the compass parts or you want the essences, you don't really have another choice. So that's what you got to do. So definitely worth the spot if you have the gear. I would just caution you with the class that you're running to make sure that they can handle it pretty easily. Otherwise, it can be pretty sweaty if your class is not ultra easy mode. So there you have it. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think about it going on in the comments down below. If you did enjoy it, be sure to like it. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you get notifications when new videos go live. And if you'd like to catch me playing live, there's a link to my Twitch page in the description down below. Jump on over there, drop a follow so you get notifications for that as well. With that said, that's going to be it for this one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and I will see you next time.